Let's get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 2021 Better Buildings, Better Plants Summit. We're so excited that you're joining us today for the K-12 schools sector meetup. We have a wonderful session prepared with some fantastic speakers that I will introduce in just a moment. But before we dive in, there are a few housekeeping points I'd like to cover. First, today's session will be recorded and archived on the Better Building Solutions Center, and we'll follow up when today's recording and slides are made available. Next, attendees, you have the option to share your video as well as unmute yourself. That said, we ask that you please keep yourselves muted when you're not speaking to avoid any background noise. If you experience any audio or visual issues anytime during today's session, please send a message in your chat window located at the bottom of your Zoom panel. My name is Brooke Holloman, and I'm a fellow in the Weatherization and Intergovernmental Programs Office at the U.S. Department of Energy, where we work to enable strategic investments in energy efficiency and renewable energy within the public sector. Next slide. In terms of our agenda, we're excited to have this time together to share timely insights and resources specific to K-12 schools from an outstanding lineup of speakers. First, we'll hear about the latest indoor air quality tools and COVID-19 relief resources from Katy with the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency and Anisa with the Center for Green Schools at the U.S. Green Building Council. Then we'll hear from two outstanding school districts represented by John Lord from Fairfax County Public Schools in Virginia and Eric Leaders from Parkway School District in Missouri. I will introduce everyone more formally a little bit later, and we hope you'll stay for a Q&A following our presentations. And speaking of questions, today we'll be using an interactive platform called Slido for all of our Q&A, polling, and session feedback. Please go to slido.com using your mobile device or by opening a new window in your internet browser, or you can scan this QR code for quick access. Today's event code is #DOE. And once you enter this event code, you can select today's session title, K-12 School Sector Meetup, in the drop-down menu in the top right. If you'd like to ask any questions during this presentation, please submit them in Slido at any time. And you can also like questions you'd like to have answered, and we'll get to them at the end. So we have a couple quick polls to start out with. I'll give everyone a few moments to open up Slido and select our session. And again, you can take a picture of the QR code to jump right to Slido. All right, so let's go ahead and launch our first poll. This one is easy. Where are you joining us from today? All right, some folks from Seattle, St. Louis, Las Vegas, New York. All right, I think we've got almost every time zone so far. Awesome. Kentucky, lots of folks from Colorado, really strong Seattle contingent. Awesome. Who else? This is great. We're really grateful in this virtual format that folks are able to join who typically might not be able to make it out to DC. So thank you so much for joining us today. All right, I think that's most folks. We can go ahead and close this poll and go to the next one. So the next poll, which role best listed here best describes the focus of your role? Another way to ask is, what is your connection to K-12 schools today? Naturally, a lot of sustainability managers joining. Awesome. And other governmental organizations, some buildings and grounds folks. Fantastic. Okay. All right, I think that is a critical mass. Perfect. We can go ahead and close this and jump in. So for those who are new to Better Buildings, I'd like to provide a little background to get us oriented. K-12 school buildings consume more than 0.8 quadrillion BTU each year at a cost of approximately $8 billion and have the potential to save $2 billion annually through a 20% energy use improvement. This is why in 2011, DOE issued a challenge not only to school districts, but state and local leaders, CEOs, university presidents, manufacturers, and other building owners to commit their organizations to achieve 20% energy savings or more in 10 years, and to lead the market by sharing their solutions to overcome barriers towards energy efficiency goals. Since then, the Better Buildings Challenge has grown to more than 360 partners across most sectors of the U.S. economy, including schools, states and local governments, industrial plants, commercial real estate, hospitality, multifamily housing, and more. Next slide. So within the challenge, we've worked closely with more than 25 school districts across the country, representing 215 million square feet, and resulting in a savings of $82 million and 8.7 trillion BTU. And so far, 7 school districts, the ones listed here, including Parkway, have achieved their goals. And this year, we're excited to add Pasadena Independent School District in Texas to our list of goal achievers. Joining us today to briefly share a few insights from the district is Kevin Forno. Kevin has 25 years of experience in the Texas education construction industry. And for the past 9 years, he served as the Associate Superintendent of Facilities and Construction, Pasadena Independent School District, where he oversees facilities and construction, energy management, maintenance operations, buildings and grounds, and transportation. Kevin, take it away.
Thank you, Brooke. Good afternoon, everyone. It's an honor and privilege to share with you a few things about our district here in Pasadena, Texas. We're located just outside of Houston, Southeast Harris County. We have over 50,000 students, 8,000 employees, and 68 schools. And we started as a one-room schoolhouse back in 1898. But in 2019, our district made a decision to make energy conservation a priority with full support of our superintendent and school board. They approved a partnership with Synergistic to help us develop a comprehensive energy management and conservation program. And together, in the first 27 months of the program, we reduced the district's overall energy consumption by 28% for a net savings of $3.32 million. And 21 of our campuses have achieved ENERGY STAR certification. Next slide, please. Some of the energy saving initiatives that we adopted were we updated our local policies and guidelines for energy management. This allowed us to clearly define our expectations and standards throughout the district. We then generated HVAC zoning maps for every campus. We adjusted our HVAC setback times and enforced district set points. We installed Wi-Fi controlled thermostats in our portable buildings. We have over 460 portable classrooms, which has always been a real challenge for us to control. Most of these buildings run 24/7, so these thermostats provided a quick and inexpensive solution to resolve a lot of comfort issues in those portable buildings. Of course, we're upgrading LED lights whenever possible. We completed some large LED projects such as new stadium and parking lot lights. I think one of our biggest successes was behavioral changes with staff, students, and departments. We've been able to make this a district-wide approach involving key service departments as well as the campuses. Just to name a few, we've had great interaction with our maintenance department, of course, with our BMCS coordination, our operations department, regular meetings with our custodial supervisors. We've established efficient cleaning schedules, zoning maps, marked and turned in each week for summer cleaning. We have adopted team cleaning, so we only operate AC in the areas where there will be cleaning instead of typically running the entire school. Food services department, we've had a lot of opportunities there to consolidate food in coolers and freezers. And especially during holiday breaks, we've trained the staff to shut down smaller pass-through coolers and equipment not necessary. Of course, even fine arts, we met with them to try to consolidate instruments and uniform storage into smaller spaces. Athletics, strategies for large events at our stadium. Even our police department, we've met with them to talk about strategies for our lighting in our parking lots. They've actually wanted lighting on the buildings rather than having lighting up the entire parking lot. So that saved us some costs. And of course, our campus principals, we've had to clearly communicate what we're doing on holidays and summer setbacks. We send out a Google Doc checklist that goes to every teacher for every classroom. The principals have been a great support in reinforcing that and collecting those reports. We send out current guidance on where we are and where we stand on those campuses, and they use that as a checklist for their teachers. Of course, the last one, our energy specialists, that's been a key component. We have 4 full-time energy specialists that complete weekly audits of every facility. We've had over 6,400 to date. These audits have been critical for us to identify what is actually happening at the campus during unoccupied times. We found that actual conditions often differ from what our BMCS systems are telling us. So it's just a constant weekly update and tweaking of those systems to get them more efficient. Next slide, please. This graph just shows our 28% decrease with our February 2019 base year of $1.55 per square foot. And then in January 2021, the cost is $1.09 per square foot. And next slide, please. These are just some items that we're going to continue to build on our success. We're committed to encouraging a culture of conservation here at the district. And I'd also like to congratulate all the other goal achievers this year. And thank you for allowing me to introduce Pasadena ISD.
Thanks so much, Kevin, and congratulations to Pasadena again on this accomplishment. I would like to provide 2 quick program updates and 1 more poll, and then we can turn to our panelists. First, I'd like to highlight our new low carbon pilot launched earlier this year. DOE is working with more than 50 Better Buildings and Better Plants partners to document strategies for reducing operational carbon emissions. Each partner has selected 2 buildings to focus on over the next 2 years, and we'll be capturing these pathways to share with the market. We're especially thrilled that 2 of our partners, Los Angeles Unified School District and River Trails School District, will be participating. Next slide. I also wanted to highlight a new resource particularly useful for large energy users such as school districts. DOE recently released the Energy Data Management Guide, a new 7-step guide for implementing energy data management programs in the public sector. Taking a data-driven approach to managing those facilities can help your school identify opportunities for energy and cost savings, make informed decisions about which facilities to prioritize for improvements, and enhance control of your energy budgets. The proven practices outlined in the Energy Data Management Guide, along with the case studies, which include 5 that feature K-12 Better Buildings partners, resources, and tools, are designed to help your school district use utility and asset data to more effectively manage the buildings and facilities you own and operate. Next slide. And finally, we have 1 more poll before we jump into presentations. If you could turn back to your open Slido window. As a reminder, our code is #DOE. And our question is more of an open-ended answer. We're asking if you could please briefly list topics for technical assistance and information sharing that would help you meet your energy goals in the coming year. And this is your chance to form in your own words what barriers you're seeking to overcome or any specific challenges you may need solutions to, or general topic areas where additional information would open up new opportunities in pursuit of energy efficiency. So these responses are really helpful to us as we're conducting our own planning for the upcoming year. Financing, I see we've got at least 1 answer. It always comes up every year. HVAC efficiency. Absolutely. Training resources, indoor air quality, you're in luck. We've got a great presentation there today. Occupancy controls. Absolutely, these are great. Building automation, for sure. Perfect. I'll leave this open a little bit longer for folks to maybe think of for a second and add them in. Yes, great. Okay. These are great answers, and we really appreciate you all taking the time. I'd like to offer to you all to continue adding in any options in the chat in the Q&A section. And with that, I'm going to introduce our panelists. First, we have Katy, who is the US EPA's ENERGY STAR Public Sector National Manager. She works with public sector organizations, such as government agencies and schools, to help improve energy performance through the use of ENERGY STAR tools and resources, including ENERGY STAR Portfolio Manager. Hundreds of thousands of commercial properties use EPA's ENERGY STAR Portfolio Manager tool to measure, track, assess, and report on their energy and water consumption. Portfolio Manager has become the standard national platform for benchmarking energy use in commercial buildings in the US and Canada. Katy has been working for the EPA since 1996 and holds a degree in city planning from the University of Virginia. Next, we have Anisa. Anisa is the director of the Center for Green Schools at the US Green Building Council. As director, Anisa provides strategic direction to USGBC's work in schools and coordinates an organization-wide team to promote environmental sustainability, health and wellness, and sustainability literacy in school systems around the world. With a background in architecture, she began her work with USGBC in New Orleans, hired to assist with the rebuilding of schools after Hurricanes Katrina and Rita. Afterwards, she moved to Washington, D.C. and began the Green Schools Fellowship Program at the Center for Green Schools, placing and training sustainability directors in school districts and beginning the nation's first network of school district sustainability staff. Next, we have John Lord. John Lord has been an energy manager for public school districts in Virginia since 2003, with experience in 3 school divisions, Amelia County, Loudoun County, and currently Fairfax County, which is the 11th largest school district in the country. In addition to being a certified energy manager, he holds several other certifications from the Association of Energy Engineers and is also a teacher with 10 years of classroom experience. John serves on several boards, including the National Capital Chapter of the Association of Energy Engineers and the Metropolitan Washington Council of Governments Climate, Energy, and Environmental Policy Committee. Programs that he has led have earned many prestigious awards, including the AEE International Award for Institutional Energy Management, and ENERGY STAR's Partner of the Year and Sustained Excellence Awards. And finally, Eric Leaders serves as the Director of Sustainability and Purchasing for the Parkway School District in Missouri, where he oversees all procurement functions and comprehensive sustainability strategy. During his 12 years at Parkway, Eric has led collaborative efforts across district departments to advance multiple sustainability goals, from energy efficiency and renewables to native landscaping and waste minimization. Eric is a LEED accredited professional and a certified energy manager and holds degrees from Webster University and the University of Missouri. We are so grateful to each of you for being with us today. I will now pass it to Katy to start us off. Katy?
Hi, everybody. And Brooke, thank you for the introduction. I'm really excited to be here with the rest of the panel today. So thank you to DOE to inviting me to present. And I've been excited about our collaboration with the Better Buildings program at the Department of Energy and the rest of my colleagues over there at the Department of Energy to help integrate our ENERGY STAR tools and resources with theirs. And so without any further ado, I'm going to go ahead and present how our ENERGY STAR tools and resources can help the districts that are listening today manage energy efficiency and indoor environmental quality together. And I'll be talking a little bit about some of a sister division within the EPA, the Indoor Environments Division's tools today toward the end of my presentation. Next slide. So as hopefully many and most of you know that are listening today, the ENERGY STAR program has quite a range of things that we do to help the consumers and businesses and other organizations save energy across the country. And one way we do that is we help organizations certify their buildings as ENERGY STAR. And so I'm coming to you from our commercial and industrial branch within the ENERGY STAR program within EPA. And so the focus of what I'm going to talk about is how our resources relate to schools, which are covered within that branch. Next slide. So Portfolio Manager is our core tool of our ENERGY STAR tools and resources, and it's used to track the energy performance of any building type, including schools. Next slide. And a little bit more about it. It's an energy management tool mainly. And so you can track, you can also track water and recycling and your waste. You can track your green power purchases. And it's the tool that's the pathway to ENERGY STAR certification if your school is eligible. It's also become the tool that's been used very widely across the country as part of local and state energy benchmarking initiatives and building performance standards. Next slide. So some of the metrics that are coming out of Portfolio Manager that are helping us understand the energy performance of commercial buildings across the United States are these that you see here: site energy use, source energy use, our ENERGY STAR score. And again, we're trying to bring information about water performance of buildings out into the marketplace and other things like waste and materials, and of course, greenhouse gas emissions performance. And basically, you know, you can't manage what you don't measure. So the point of Portfolio Manager is to bring energy data in from all the consumption aspects of a building and combine it together with square footage information, and then produce usable metrics that help measure performance against another group of similar types of buildings, which is our ENERGY STAR score, or your own portfolio of buildings within the system. Next slide, please. So these are the property types that can earn the ENERGY STAR score, and most of these you can certify, and K-12 is among them. We recently updated the survey sample that is used as the basis of the ENERGY STAR score, and that comes from DOE's Energy Information Administration's Commercial Buildings Energy Consumption Survey, finally called CBEX. So that basis is on a random unbiased survey sample based on 2012 K-12 school performance across the country. Next slide, please. A little bit more about ENERGY STAR certification. So on our scale from 1 to 100, school buildings that achieve a 75 to 100 in that range could be eligible to earn the ENERGY STAR. In addition to performing at this level on this scale, we do require that schools meet ASHRAE 62 and 55 standards before they can apply. And you apply for a 12-month period, and the data needs to be reviewed by a licensed professional. And each certification is actually stamped with a date. So often schools are reapplying every year so they can have a fresh ENERGY STAR certification. Thank you to Pasadena for earning the ENERGY STAR on so many of your built school buildings as part of your Better Buildings accomplishment. We have a couple of other K-12 success stories that are joining today, but I'll talk more about them in terms of my other panelists. But before I move on, I want to talk about ENERGY STAR certification in the context of what we've just experienced with COVID-19 and the issues with trying to understand the indoor air quality of school buildings and how that intersects with energy efficiency. It is my hope that because we do direct people toward the ASHRAE standards, and it's also entirely okay to exceed various levels of performance. Not sure where my presentation just went, but anyway, through other ways of measuring indoor environmental quality in your buildings. For example, if you're using sensors in your buildings that measure things like CO2 on a continuous basis and ventilation rates and other things, you can then incorporate that information into your application for ENERGY STAR certification. Next slide, please. So a little bit more about our awards. So we do have ENERGY STAR certification on individual buildings. You can design a new building to earn the ENERGY STAR, and then in order to actually earn the ENERGY STAR, that building needs to actually perform for a 12-month period and meet the indoor environmental quality standards that I just talked about previously before it actually can be certified as ENERGY STAR. The basis of our certification is on performance and demonstration of that performance. We also have another award that we give out to a few school districts every year, and that's our ENERGY STAR Partner of the Year award. We have a Partner of the Year winner category and a Sustained Excellence category, which is for districts that, and this is a district level award, and that's for districts that have demonstrated and won Partner of the Year multiple times. And so we have two winners, Partner of the Year winners today, presenting Fairfax County Public Schools. Congratulations to John Ward for his successes in Fairfax, and then also Parkway School District with Eric Leaders. Congratulations to you for your successes, to you both for being champions of energy efficiency and demonstrating that through your ENERGY STAR program accomplishments and your work with the Department of Energy Better Buildings program. Next slide, please. So the message that I'm trying to share today is that what I'm hoping that you will do is continually manage energy efficiency and indoor environmental quality together. These two things have had a history of being a bit divided. And so the time has finally come with the lessons that we've learned from COVID-19 that these two things actually need to be integrated in order to still achieve the energy efficiency goals, which often are moving in the direction of decarbonization, while maintaining a safe and reduced risk indoor environment for the students and teachers within the properties. So I'm really glad that within EPA, we have our Indoor Environments Division, and they have years of experience and history with their tools for schools, resources to help school districts understand and manage indoor environmental quality. And we've been teaming up for years. However, today strikes like a new future where hopefully school districts will actually truly integrate these two things and manage them simultaneously. Next slide. So a little bit more about our ENERGY STAR tools and resources. So as I mentioned, we have Portfolio Manager. We also have a treasure hunt set of resources that is a fun way to do energy efficiency audits in your schools. And this resource can be coupled with our checklists from our Tools for Schools resources from our Indoor Environments Division. So again, what I encourage districts to do is look for their energy efficiency opportunities and their indoor environmental quality improvement opportunities simultaneously, and then create a plan to then improve them together so you can maximize both. As you improve energy efficiency, of course, we've got the recognition through the ENERGY STAR certification. Another thing I'd like to mention is our comprehensive set of resources about creating a competition across your district to manage energy efficiency and create internal rewards and successes related to that, even if the school properties are not eligible for ENERGY STAR yet. So I encourage you to look into those resources, and those can be used once again simultaneously with our Indoor Environments Division resources. Next slide, please. So a little bit more about the resources that our Indoor Environments Division has. As you can see here, there's quite a few, and they range from a tool that's an app that's downloadable on your phone that's got a framework and checklists associated with the different types of activities that you need to do to locate and understand your indoor environmental issues and then address them. And then there's a whole guide, the Energy Savings Plus Health Guide, that helps you understand different types of upgrades that are being done and the risks associated with that and opportunities as it relates to indoor air quality improvements and energy efficiency together. So I really encourage you to just go ahead and integrate these resources right into your energy efficiency and facility management program and planning activities. Next slide, please. And actually, before my friend and colleague Anisa Hemming presents, I'd like to encourage folks to use the resources that are coming out today from COVID relief funds to really address HVAC improvements and indoor air quality together. I'm so excited that there are resources together that are available now. Thanks.
Okay, that was fabulous, and those resources look very timely, so thank you for taking the time. We will now switch over to Anisa. Anisa, take it away.
Great. Hi, everybody. Nice to see a lot of familiar names here. Happy to be here with you guys. I'm going to walk through, I'm going to give a very quick overview of who the Center for Green Schools and the U.S. Green Building Council are, just in case folks don't know who we are, what we do. I'll do that super quick because I want to get to COVID relief funding in particular, which is what Katy was just talking about, and how you all might be able to use that for energy and health related improvements in your school facilities. And then I'm also going to talk to you a bit about the results of a survey that we did in collaboration with ASHRAE related to indoor air quality improvements at schools, and which recommendations that have been coming your way, flying your way, related to COVID have actually sort of been implemented at schools around the country, and what the challenges appear to be for your peers around the country. So that's where we're headed today. Let's go to the first slide. And then the next slide. So the Center for Green Schools, we work with school systems around the world on green school topics. We define a green school as one that improves the environment, improves health and wellness, and encourages sustainability and environmental literacy. So let's go to the next slide. We are part of the US Green Building Council, USGBC, which is best known, next slide, for the LEED rating system for buildings. US Green Building Council is actually a council. We are a group of thousands of member companies and organizations, including schools at all levels. And that group of members has come together to try to implement various things to improve the built environment and the design, construction, and operation of buildings and community infrastructure. So that's who we are as an organization, as a nonprofit. The next slide, please. Like I said, flying through this. The LEED rating system is a rating system that gives a sense of how a building has been designed, constructed, and then there's a separate rating system for operations and maintenance to help owners and their stakeholders understand how goals related to the environment and health have or have not been accomplished. So it's really an accountability tool, especially when we are talking to school districts about its use. And around 2,200 or so schools around the world have been certified by the LEED rating system, and another 2,000 or so are in the pipeline, pardon that word, for certification. So they've been registered. I love this photo. It's so joyful, and also the daylight coming into this classroom is just wonderful. And you know, driving all of our work is ensuring that kids have a healthy and vibrant place, an inspiring place to learn, and that all children can enjoy that. Let's go to the next slide. So one thing I wanted to make sure you guys knew about on this call is the educational resources that US Green Building Council has on offer. This link on the screen is just a easy one for you to remember or type in. And we have hundreds of courses online, some free, some for a small fee. The courses are on all topics related to green buildings. And then the next slide, I think, lists some of the badges that we offer. So there's also, we've taken a lot of the courses from USGBC and our educational partners and gathered them together into sort of topic areas. So if you have staff who need, training on a particular aspect of green building, we have, targeted groups of courses that can be taken together to earn a badge. And the courses have quizzes associated with them, so that there is some accountability there to whether the people earning these badges have actually, learned the things you hope they're going to be learning. So I wanted to, I think the next slide gets into some of the COVID content. I wanted, before, Brooke, I'm gonna send you a link to that maybe we could get to the attendees to the webinar series that we're running right now at the Center for Green Schools on getting schools to zero carbon. I noticed that at least one of the attendees was interested in carbon related education, carbon emissions related education. And that webinar series that we're running is a 3-part series, and the last one is going to be June 1st, and it'll feature a whole bunch of free tools that can be used, and we'll have the organizations that host those tools on that webcast, and you'll be able to actually talk to the people that run the tools. We'll have some breakout rooms where you can, dive in a little bit deeper. So that's sounds like it might be a really useful thing for this group, and DOE will be with us for that June 1st webcast. So we're going to start with an overview of some resources that we have available for you all when you're thinking about in particular, the American Rescue Plan funds. I know that a lot of school districts are getting their plans together right now for the use of that funding. The funds it's a huge amount of funding that's available, as you guys know, for school systems. There is a lot of need all across the board in school districts, and we know that facilities is only one part of that need. However, there's a really exciting opportunity here because facilities spending, and the point that we hope you guys are able to make in your school districts, the funding, the nature of the funding as one-time funding is actually really perfect for facilities spending. A lot of districts are nervous to use these funds for staff and additional teaching resources because they're not going to be annual, they're just coming now. So if the funds can be used on facilities for things that might save on operational costs moving forward, it's a good investment now with this funding that might be able to pay dividends over the course of the coming years. So there's a good case for using this a bit of this funding, at least, on facilities improvements. And there is, as you guys know, quite a lot of need in our school buildings. So we released this document, the 5 guiding principles. The link to this document will be available as part of this presentation deck. But the 5 guiding principles, we've outlined things to think about when it comes to planning for the use of, in particular, American Rescue Plan funding. We'll get into what that looks like. And then for each of the 5 principles, we're releasing sort of a briefing, a couple pages for each of the 5 principles that you can use to sort of make the case for different aspects of spending related to facilities and related to green schools topics. So go to the next slide, please. So here's the funding that has come out. There's a lot to keep track of. ESSER 1, as people call it, was through the CARES Act, which passed last March. ESSER 2 was part of the December Relief Act, which passed in December 2020. There's a typo here that should be 900 billion was the total appropriation for that, and then 54 billion is the specific K-12 education allocation. Some people are calling the funding coming in through the American Rescue Plan ESSER 3. So if you hear that on the street, that's what that means. But it's, as you can see, it's quite a lot more money for for K-12 schools than we've seen in the previous 2 packages. So and we have quite a while to obligate the funds. So it's actually 2024 that you have to obligate the funds from the American Rescue Plan Act. So there's a couple years here to figure out what exactly to allocate this funding toward. However, school districts are getting the funding, whether they apply for it or not, but they have to submit a plan to their state about how that funding is going to be spent. So many school districts are, if they haven't already come up with that general plan to submit to the state, then they are doing that right now. So I hope, we know from hearing from districts that facilities folks are not always at the table for that conversation. So just want to encourage folks on the line today to really get in the room as much as you can, just to be present when the conversations are happening about how this funding should be spent. All right, next slide. So within the American Rescue Plan, we and some other groups advocated strongly on the Hill for facilities to be included as a explicit allowable use for funding. So within the Rescue Plan, it's a explicitly allowed use, and in the December funds, it also was. So we after the CARES Act was passed in March 2020, we did a lot of advocacy on the Hill to make sure that facilities actually was called out as something that could be that funds could be used on. So this just lists some of the, this is not a full list, but it lists some of the allowable uses for the funds within the rescue plan. Next slide. So we've, as I said, the resource that we will get you the link to for the, oh, thank you for the, that's now in the chat. The 5 guiding principles. These are the aspects of spending that we go into in that guidance document. So I won't dive into too much more into this, but it's available for you to make the case within your school district. Next slide, please. Oh, I wanted to open up a poll to see, yeah, on this one, thank you so much, on Slido, to see how you guys have or have not been able to use the COVID relief funding on facilities improvements. So we like to keep an eye out on the, go ahead and answer this whenever, I'll just keep talking while you read through the question on Slido. We, as I was saying, do a lot of advocacy on Capitol Hill related to K-12 schools, school districts, facilities funding, et cetera. And we like to keep our finger on the pulse of what the challenges and opportunities are related to K-12 facilities out there. So yeah, I don't know. Yep. This is what actually, that's very reflective of what we have heard from school districts, that especially people in facilities are not at the table when it comes to the conversations around the COVID-19 relief funding. So, you know, whatever you need from us to be able to get to the table, if that's something that we can help with at all, please let us know. I see there's a lot of temporary measures as well, which was allowable in the CARES Act, the original CARES Act. And I think that school districts haven't necessarily switched in their minds to the idea that some permanent facilities improvements can be allowable uses for this newer funding. Okay, great. Thanks for answering that poll. I'm going to actually skip through this. I'm going to make sure we get through the. Now I'm running low on time. So next slide. This was that was an example of healthy schools investment. So this is the last piece of my presentation about this IAQ survey that we ran with ASHRAE. And the report we just put out about 2 weeks ago. You can see the timeline of our survey activities. This went out to our networks and ASHRAE's networks, trying to understand how the recommendations related to air quality have actually been implemented on the ground in school districts. So next slide, please. So we heard from 47, more than 47, but we had to cut a few who weren't complete, but we heard from 47 districts in a complete way. That's over 4,000 schools across 24 states. Great representation from Colorado. Thank you, Colorado friends. And this was a really important way for us to get a handle on what's been happening on the ground. So next slide. So just to give you a sense first about the ways that the survey participants are dealing with various hybrid versus virtual versus in-person learning situations. This seems to be pretty representative of districts that I've been talking to and reading. So I'm hoping that these 47 districts actually gave us a really good cross-section of school districts, because I think this is pretty representative of the country's school districts and how they have managed over the course of the last year in terms of the, in-person versus virtual versus hybrid. All right, so the next slide gives you a sense of which of these 6 recommendations we were implemented at the districts that we surveyed. There's a ton more detail in the report, and so I would encourage you, if this is something you're interested in, to dive into the report that we released a couple of weeks ago. I'm going to open up a final poll to understand from this group that's on the line today what you guys have been able to implement at your school district. So this is the same 6 recommended strategies for indoor air quality that were just in that. Oh, sorry. Can you open up the poll instead of this question? I skipped the question for time. Thank you so much. Oh. Sorry. Back to the presentation. This is what happens when you're not in full control of the presentation. You forget what is on here. Can you go back to the presentation? Thank you. We're going to go to energy implications next. So the long story short here on this slide is that school districts have leaned really heavily on HVAC systems for COVID relief, COVID management, air quality management during COVID. So we saw mostly school districts and schools trying to introduce more outside air into the schools, either and or flushing and just increasing outdoor air supply on a regular basis. We saw much less reliance on the sort of more passive measures of opening windows and using like exhaust fans. So this is even more fuel to the fire for investing in our school facilities HVAC systems, because they were the thing that school districts were trying to use. And one of the major challenges that we heard about in the survey was that school buildings were just not designed to do a lot of these strategies, and in particular the strategies that rely on those HVAC systems. So next slide. So this is the list of challenges that popped to the top in the survey related to implementing these strategies. And you'll see that all of them, except the air cleaners with HEPA filters, these schools are not designed to support this strategy, was one of the top cited challenges. So we know that our schools were not starting from a good baseline in trying to manage air quality during COVID. Next slide, please. All right, and this is the final slide I had about energy costs and the sort of implications that schools saw related to energy use during COVID. So I wanted to open up a poll related to, Brooke, do I have time to open up a poll related to energy use?
You
This
can
is
do
the last
it really
thing.
quick.
Okay, last thing, I promise.
Yeah.
I'm like 2 minutes over. I'm so
Okay.
sorry.
All right.
So let's, yeah, okay. So this one was is open. So this is, we're curious about the energy use implications that you guys have seen from implementing all that you've been asked to do related to air quality this past year. And this takes into account occupied versus not occupied. So read the answers carefully before you answer. Really interested to hear what this group saw related to energy use. Mm-hmm. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, so definitely more energy when the buildings were occupied. I'm assuming that's because of the increased outdoor air. And then sort of a mix of whether you used more energy when the buildings were not occupied. So that, I assume that has to do with some policy setting around, you know, what state the buildings should be in, whether occupied or not. So thanks for answering that. That's really informative for us. Appreciate that. And I appreciate your time today. Thank you so much for having me. Join us at the Green Schools Conference for more education from a variety of speakers, and Department of Energy will be there with the Healthy Efficient Schools program. We're so excited, and that'll be late June. So thank you so much.
Anisa, thanks. I know we dropped a lot of resources in the chat, but they can access them, I think, on the last slide you shared afterwards. I want to jump quickly to John Lord. John, take it away.
All right, thank you, Brooke. I appreciate that. So I'm just going to briefly start by telling everybody about my career trajectory and maybe provide some guidance or some, I don't know, encouragement for people who are looking at their career trajectory and wondering what's happening. You know, my degree is in Spanish and Latin American studies. I did quite well teaching Spanish for 10 years, but I don't do that anymore. I'm at CAD, I have the certification to do it, but I've gone with the flow over the years. And there was an opportunity. Randy Hoff is one of the participants. He's the, I think, board chairman of Synergistic. They're a great company. I worked with them in all 3 school districts where I am now and where I've been in the past. But the opportunity came up to be an energy manager. And in my first school district, the only thing anybody cared about at all was saving money. If we weren't saving money, then we didn't really care. And so that was the goal, save money. And then things changed a little bit. I became a sustainability professional. I realized that not only when you save money by reducing your energy use, you're also reducing your environmental impact when you save energy and reduce your energy use. And now I've realized very recently that I'm becoming a health and wellness professional and a resiliency professional. And if that's happening to you too, if you're not sure what you do for a living anymore, don't be discouraged. You know, it's okay to do different things, to learn new things and to do things differently than you have in the past. So with that, let's go into the next slide, please. Energy has always been, in my opinion, a really great unifying theme. There's lots of things that can tear us apart, lots of political opinions and lots of things that are value statements and all, but it really doesn't matter who you are, what you look like, or where you come from. You're going to use some energy in your life. You know, you just are. You're going to want lights. You're going to want food heated up. You're going to want food refrigerated. You're going to like air conditioning and heating. And so when we have student groups who are interested in energy, we find they are the most diverse student groups of any. You know, you talk about what is the standard clique, you know, like the jocks or the nerds or the band school kids or whoever, that, you know, that you don't see that in groups that are focused on energy. It's everybody from all backgrounds and all experiences. So this is something you have in your favor. Next slide, please. Now, you may ask yourself, why do you care about what I or what Fairfax County Public Schools may have to say? We've done a few things well over the years, and so this is some of the awards. And I just want to really draw your attention to the one in the upper left. First, the Better Buildings Challenge. We decided it wasn't really fair to say we accomplished our goal this year, not for our organization. It just wasn't right for us because it was such a strange year last year. And so we did accomplish the goal, but we're going to defer until next year. If we continue to have that number, if we can keep it down, then we'll be ready to say we earned it. But next to it, you can see the Well Health and Safety Rating from the International Well Building Institute. This is part of what I'm talking about, that I became a health and wellness professional and learned about resiliency. I didn't ever expect to do that when I started down the pathway of doing energy management, but it was a pretty logical fit. It involved a lot of different people working together with our food service, our safety and security, all kinds of electrical, mechanical, plumbing, you name it, people all around the school division contributed to that. And there's lots of great standards. I don't want to pick this particular one and say you got to go after this one. But if you're not doing something, you know, like the ENERGY STAR Tools for Schools, really great program, use it, take advantage of it. It's free. The Well Health and Safety, it's not free, but it's a great program. I'm sure there are also green schools programs along from the USGBC, and Anisa shared those resources, and you can look at them too. But pick one and find out what it's all about. And I think you'll see there's a great overlap with your already scheduled work on doing energy management. Next slide, please. So for me, this is kind of the traditional energy managers pyramid. You know, we would say, traditionally speaking, you don't get renewable energy on a building until after you've done these other things. You build the foundation first, and then you work your way up. And if you're not trying to conserve by just using energy when you really need it and not using it when you don't really need it, you're missing the foundation. Everything else you do is just going to be really poorly balanced because it's got to start on a foundation of conservation. The next step is efficiency. And that's when you replace things, put in new equipment, do energy conservation measures that involve changing equipment. Then, demand and renewables are after that. But I guess I just would encourage people to look at the conservation and efficiency things, especially with all the money that's going to be coming down the pike. Look at how you can use energy more wisely and how you can reduce the amount you're using before you try to do things like put a bunch of solar panels on the roof. Why buy a ginormous power plant when you really only need to buy a small power plant? So start by getting it down to where you have a small energy use. Next slide, please. We really like the ENERGY STAR guidelines for energy management. We've been an ENERGY STAR partner for a really long time. And the plan is so simple, it almost feels obvious, but it's the kind of thing that when you put yourself into it and you actually think it through and you go down this pathway of making a plan and assessing your performance and recognizing the achievements, that's one that I've learned over the years is really important because people like to get a pat on the back once in a while. And it's nice to know you've accomplished something. And then you can go right back to trying to do something more. And I tell this to people all the time. If you are an American citizen who pays taxes, you've already bought and paid for the ENERGY STAR program. If you're not using it, you're wasting your taxpayer money. You've paid for it, use it, for goodness sake. All right, next slide, please. Now, the greenhouse gas emissions have been tracked in our school division since 2008. Their school system made an environmental stewardship policy back then. And one of their components of the environmental stewardship policy was to measure the greenhouse gas emissions. I have found that this is rare among school systems across the country. And just like Katy said, and the ENERGY STAR program would advocate, you can really only measure what you care about, and you really only care about what you measure. And so, yes, it is true that we are looking at energy, and that's our main job. And we're looking at how, the cost and the use of it affects the school system. But another thing that we really need to get knowledgeable about measuring, and each of us who are in this field need to be able to know about our own school divisions, is what are the greenhouse gas emissions? What is your carbon environmental impact? And can you bring it down? And this slide is really kind of neat. It shows that the square footage has been going up. Same with the square footage going up, the number of students in our school division has been going up, and yet the energy use has been going down. And so we're really proud of that. It's a sort of a double whammy. More people, more programs, more places, and still less energy altogether. Next slide, please. This is just the slide that shows, what you actually can expect to save, if you have a successful program over some time. But it's in some categories. There's one of the categories, you can see the first block is what do the greenhouse gas emissions reductions really look like? And how does that compare to some environmental metrics like cars and tree seedlings? And then it's down with some more about the CO2 emissions and comparing to, again, environmental metrics, tanker trucks of gas, coal burned, homes that can be heated, or the energy use of homes, sorry. But the final one's the one that's kind of neat. We're fortunate in the area around the nation's capital that 18 school divisions have all gotten together and compared notes. What do they have? And so we can say, how do we save according to numbers of teachers and things like that? All right, next slide, please. Now, the future, I'm going to end my presentation. I think this is my last slide about what's coming next. The JET, the Joint Environmental Task Force, has really decided to push the school system and the county board to move to really, really ambitious goals that we really, honest to goodness, we don't know how we're going to accomplish them, but we're going to try. And we're going to try because it's the only thing we have. We can't guarantee success, but we can guarantee that we're going to give it a try. One example is that they would like to have all of the fleet of vehicles on the road replaced with electric vehicles. Well, we have over 1,500 school buses, and an electric school bus costs on average about $300,000. So we're talking $500 million just to replace the school buses for one school division in Virginia. So we don't know. Again, like I said, we don't know how it's going to happen, but we know that's the goal and we're going to try. And so hopefully, even though you may be facing some unimaginable goals and you may be looking at some really daunting achievements that you'll have to accomplish, I want to give you encouragement and say, you can do it. And so thank you very much. And on the next slide, we'll make sure I'm done. Yep, thank you. We'll turn it over to Eric.
John, thanks so much for your inspiration and for sharing all that Fairfax has going on. Really appreciate it. All right, now we're going to turn over to Eric for one more presentation before we kick off our Q&A. So if you've had burning questions, please go to Slido, get them in, and be sure to upvote the ones you want us to cover. So Eric, all of you.
Great, thank you so much. Hello, everyone. Appreciate the time today to speak with you all a little bit and tell you about where we're at within our kind of journey here for energy efficiency and such. So I have a unique role within our district. So I am the Director of Sustainability and Purchasing, so kind of all green initiatives as well as procurement, which is kind of nice. I'm able to oversee specifications for just about every single thing we buy. So we can make sure that we have that influence and we're specifying those products that are more sustainable, energy efficient, and making sure that our vendors are delivering on that too. So it's a good fit. But where are we? So we're Parkway School District. So we are a school district in the western suburbs of St. Louis. Is a kind of representation. We're about 20,000 students and staff, 34 buildings, 3.3 million square feet. We've got a 95% graduation rate. 19% of our students are on free and reduced lunch. The average age of the buildings that we have in our district is about 53 years old. The reason I bring that up is just kind of context is historically what we're doing is we're doing capital replacement cycles. So replacing assets on our buildings as opposed to necessarily building new buildings. So any new square footage that we're adding, typically it's maybe a small wing or something like that, or a small addition. Our newest school was built in 1994. So again, not that bright and shiny new anymore. So that's kind of where we're at and kind of the little context for where our journey is. So next slide, please. So this is just kind of showing a little bit of our kind of meandering journey, if you will. So we've taken an approach that has been a little bit of opportunistic at times and strategic where we're able. So 1992, our efforts got started with energy behavior change management and some recycling initiatives as well. So we got really started to that point earlier that John mentioned, all about conservation and reducing, lights out campaigns, et cetera. But when I came on board, I think we identified that there was an opportunity to do broader sustainability work and take a more comprehensive approach, trying to adopt those LEED related practices, LEED O&M related practices throughout various district operations. So that's something we've been bringing to the fold. So specific to renewables now, in 2012, we launched an effort to get solar on rooftops of all of our buildings. And what that was a 25 kilowatt array. And that was kind of incentivized, but at the time, our electric utility provider was offering a $2 per watt incentive. So we jumped on that, and I'll go into more of that detail a little bit later. In 2015, we started a strategic planning process in which we were at the table for that and worked really hard to get sustainability incorporated into those goals for the district and measurable objectives. So, and really trying to embed that in there and through our district planning process to make sure that that's something that we're going to commit ourselves to holding ourselves accountable moving forward. And part of that was signing up onto the Better Buildings Challenge, in which we signed up in 2016 using 2015 as a benchmark for a 20% reduction goal. And with that, looking at the Center for the Green Schools put out a whole school sustainability framework, which again kind of speaks to more of those initiatives beyond just energy and recycling. So that we're took very seriously. In 2019, we advanced even further with our renewables. We installed more and more solar, as well as bring on geothermal, one of our locations, and broader goal adoption. Recently, we've been putting a lot of effort into drafting more holistic sustainability policies, board level policies, which are really, really important, as we're noticing that with key turnover, their key stakeholder turnover, whether that's board level or key stakeholders within the district, trying to make sure that we have very kind of specific documentation that we can refer back to whenever we are encountering differences of opinion on how we should be moving forward, that we already have a committed policy and procedure for how we're handling energy and other things with regards to sustainability. And then from there, we're trying to, again, future plan for our next bond issue capital replacement cycle and furthering our goals. Next slide, please. So this is, kind of wordy. I'm not going to go into all this, but what I want to get out of this is with, kind of going back to our strategic planning process of embedding what we do into that plan, as well as connecting it to our mission. So I have, outlined here our school district mission. We're a mission-driven organization. And one things that I point to every single time when we are discussing the why of our work is we are part of responding to the challenges of an ever-changing world, which is what we are expecting our students to do and what we're preparing them to do. So we're all here for the students, and this work is connected to that. Now, within that process, we identified 3 goals as a district, try to kind of streamline it to 3. And that third goal being kind of really all about operations work. And within each goal had various measurable objectives. Now, this is one that I think we did a great job in kind of really identifying what that triple bottom line is. And again, and holding our district strategic plan for that, which is we're going to integrate environmentally, socially, and fiscally sustainable best practices into areas of focus. So this is kind of all across the board. This is the direction we're headed. So again, kind of embedding that into district level documents ensures that the work can live on and we hold ourselves to it. Next slide. And from there, we added additional goals. So energy reduction, water, landfill, also, trying to incorporate outdoor landscapes, going native landscaping, make sure we're connecting that to learning, sustainability learning, as well as health and wellness. So more holistic sustainability goals. Next slide. And through our process in trying to achieve those goals, we've been very fortunate and we've come a long way. So we've been recognized throughout that process. In 2009, we had 2 schools that were ENERGY STAR certified. Most recently, we had 23 schools. In 2019, we were a 2019 goal achiever. So we had to make sure that we're communicating that outward. In 2020, when we were recognized that, is that from that perspective earlier, is that this is through 2019 pre-COVID. So we're really proud of our achievement in half the amount of time. So we set our sights on a new goal of 35% reduction by 2025. I've been recognized by Green Ribbon as a Green Ribbon District, as well as the ENERGY STAR Partner of the Year. Next slide. And so we've had a lot of work with regards to energy, and much of which that you, I'm sure, may be very familiar with, but just want to kind of touch on this to a certain extent here. So LED lighting, we've had some great successes there, as I'm sure many of you have. We replaced all of our outdoor lighting to LED. Before, interior lighting looks like it was economically viable. That said, we've moved into retrofitting interior spaces over the last several years. And we've noticed that even the efficiencies of that technology has improved drastically. I think when we first started, the 4-foot linear lamp was about 15 watts, and now we're at about 10.5 watts for the same amount of efficacy and efficiency. So something that's been exciting to see that technology continues to move. So de-lamping is always a great opportunity. So don't just go one for one. Make sure that you are measuring as you move. I'll touch on the renewable aspects a little bit later. Controls, so controls upgrade as well as retrocommissioning, monitor-based commissioning. All that is going to be HVAC and controls related. Really important to use the data that you have, use the systems that you have to make sure that your schedules are input correctly, that you don't have excessive schedules, that you don't have stray schedules, that your systems aren't simultaneously heating and cooling. Bring in those third-party experts, so those retro commissioning professionals, to help using a monitoring-based commissioning platform and doing that data analytics to really provide some oversight in how your systems are functioning has been really important for us into driving our energy use down. Plug load management, we have a PC power management platform, web-based platform that all of our devices are synced to, so that way you can make sure that our plug loads are reduced as well. So all this being said, just from 2015 to 2019, we've seen a reduction of energy use by $1 million, if not more. So again, lots of great resources that are being able to then be redirected into educating students. And then, of course, 2020 is an anomaly. So we're going to see, how we're headed towards that 35% goal, probably at the end of 2021 and into 2022. Next slide. Funding sources, those utility rebate incentives has been absolutely paramount for us. What we've done is we've created a separate account for all of our utility rebate incentives to go into to kind of create a revolving loan fund. It's been tremendous in order to kind of snowball effects that work. We've got rebates for our solar installations. We engaged in a lease program for our solar, and I'll touch on a little bit more. We use a state of Missouri energy efficiency loan program to do our outdoor LED lighting. We paid that off very quickly. We've even received some allocation with our bond issues in order to move towards energy efficiency work. And then also, as well as our annual operating budget to kind of do things such as LED lighting controls and such. Next slide. These are great resources. The Advanced Energy Design Guidelines, we have set the 50% Advanced Energy Design Guideline as essentially our benchmark. So anytime we're doing capital replacement work, the prescriptive measures that are in there for our climate region are what we are utilizing for essentially our specifications or product selection for capital replacement. So we're replacing, a roofs. Okay, it has to be an R30. That's the minimum standard now. So there are lots of those elements for specific building systems that are in there. It's a great resource. I absolutely advocate for that. We were trying to pursue the zero energy when possible. Next slide. So our solar array, kind of touched on that a little bit. So Missouri is a regulated state, so we can't do a power purchase agreement, but we can do lease agreements. So we had our solar installations installed at 25 kilowatts across 33 sites. Our lease cost was a fixed lease, and that fixed lease was less than the cost that we would have paid that same retail amount of electricity from a provider. So it's structured in a way where all rebates and incentives went to the installer. We had zero upfront out of cost pocket, and we have zero maintenance costs with that, but we're getting the benefit. So that's a great way to sell the win-win to our school board, and it's been a success. Next slide. In 2019 and 2020, we have expanded those solar array at 4 different sites. We've added an additional 75 kilowatts. We bought those. So we had a premium from a bond issue, in which case, we identified this as a quick turnaround design build application in which we're going to immediately see a savings and in our operations budget. So that was an exciting expansion that we did. So now we've got several schools. We've got the roofs largely blanketed with solar panels, which is gorgeous to me. So and that said, so we've also installed an additional 25 kilowatts on a new addition that was installed to meet some EUI goals for that addition. Next slide, please. We've installed geothermal at one of our high schools. It's kind of a perfect storm here. So as a retrofit application, some people might be scratching their head, but for us, it really worked. This site is essentially all electric. It was an end-of-life chiller plant. So it was, one of the chillers was dead, and we're kind of on its redundancy at that point. The cooling tower was a nightmare as a water-cooled chiller. And the cooling tower placement was inside the building, had bad airflow. It wasn't efficient. Moving it outside had its own issues, and we couldn't necessarily do that in a cost-effective way. So geothermal looks really well. So we phased it in. So we replaced the chillers with chillers that would work in connection to a well field or to a conventional cooling tower plant. We identified that we tested the well and to make sure that there was good thermal conductivity in the soil. It worked. We got the bond issue passed, and we went full tilt with installing that geothermal application. It's got a great benefit. So it's a 40-year life cycle of that well field. So there's less replacements that are needed, such as the cooling tower and such. So it's a great program that we plan on expanding and growing into more and more over the years. Next slide. And all this being said, so this is kind of the results that blue bar graph kind of showing our emissions over time. So we are, steadily marching down and rolling back those greenhouse gas emissions, which is critical. That graph on the right is showing our cumulative solar energy production, and those yellow bars being the leased arrays, and the orange bars on top of them in 2019 and 20 of our owned arrays. So we're heading in the right direction on multiple different fronts. Next slide. So lessons learned for us, we've been opportunistic. There's multiple entry points, but making sure that we connect to our mission and our strategic plan has been really important for us to be able to continue heading down this direction and embedding that into our work. Then furthering that is we're trying to have those policies live on regardless of what stakeholders turn over. So that's been really, really important for us, anticipating naysayers and making sure that we build those relationships and showing why the work that we're doing is important and how it's going to benefit their different programs as well. So next slide, and I think that's about all I had. Okay, these are a bunch of different resources. So again, unique position maybe to some, being within kind of that purchasing role, wanted to provide different bid specifications for various programs that we did, such as geothermal, solar, LEDs, etc. So hopefully that will act as a resource, as well as draft sustainability board policies. They're not board approved and adopted yet, but we do hope that that happens in the future. So in case you're looking for sample language, hopefully this will be available. Next slide. All right, thank you.
Eric, that was fabulous. And I see that all of those are links that folks can access for sample language in the slides once they're available. Is that right? Awesome. That sounds perfect. Okay, well, we've made it. It's time for our Q&A. Those are all fabulous presentations. This is a reminder to go to slido.com and enter your question or upvote the ones you are hoping to see. I know folks are still adding them in. Looks like some of these are from earlier during Katy's presentation. A question about tracking EUI and Wi-Fi thermostats. Did that ring a bell to you, Katy?
We do track, you can track energy use intensity in Portfolio Manager. The tool takes in monthly energy consumption data and then produces annualized metrics. We do have actually monthly energy use intensities for 2 fuel types, which is electricity use and natural gas. So if you have additional questions, please contact me offline and I can follow up.
Awesome. Thank you. And then the number one question folks have asked, I think, is from Graham, related to Anisa's poll question. Anisa, I'm trying to think of a way to ask this to you in terms of...
Is there a way for people to, can we open up like a Slido thing for people to just like drop in what they've done?
Folks can definitely, I think, write in the...
possible? Well, but that chat would only go to you. So I think people want to see what others have done here.
Sure.
Is that possible?
Well, sure.
Chris works some magic maybe in the background.
I know. At a minimum, folks can write in the Q&A.
I know. I mean, I can say what while we figure that out.
That'd be great.
If we can figure it out, I can say what I've heard.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, from what I've heard from sort of more permanent facilities improvements, school buildings that didn't have that didn't have HVAC systems. This is like that would be something that would qualify as enabling you to implement all of the air quality strategies that have been recommended, and that is a really significant, as you know, investment. But that would be the type of permanent improvement that you could make the case for with these funds pretty easily. And John,
I'd like
you
to
had something
add to that too. Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the things that we face, many of our schools have direct through the wall or through
Yeah.
ceiling unit ventilators. And especially in the area when you are right outside of what used to be a swamp. And I guess some people would say it's still a swamp. 30 miles outside of Washington, D.C., by the way, for anybody who doesn't know where we are. But then you really struggle with humidity and moisture management. And so we're going to be putting in a lot of dedicated outside air systems, makeup air units, things that are going to be able to control enthalpy and humidity. Whereas those through the wall unit ventilators, even though they gave plenty of air, it didn't provide good IAQ. The indoor air quality was bad because we had high moisture levels. It would not be uncommon at all to find relative humidity of 70% in some of our schools in the summer, and that's just horrible. So to get rid of those, and that's a permanent facility improvement that would be very applicable to this particular grant.
Yeah, great point, John. Some of those like ERV retrofits. Yeah, that's a great point. Eric, have you guys done anything? And you're just pulling on the school district people we have that are part of our panel here.
So we're considering kind of like those more permanent solutions now. And so there's a variety of different, IAQ options that we're considering. So some of which are jury's still out on, it seems, that we've been coming across. So, but what we've implemented so far is much more of the pre and post occupancy flush, as well as is just kind of replacing our filters. MERV 8A is the ratings that we have been historically using. We're considering others in the future, as well as we've done some of the other things that everyone else is with PPE, or maybe even like the barriers, so like the desk partitions and such, so which are of course temporary, and it's going to be hard to stomach that when in a year, whenever, that we're going to have to figure out how to best move those to a next phase of life, hopefully recycled of some sort.
Great. So I think we figured out that folks want to chat us directly their permanent facilities improvements. We can shout those out. But in the meantime, we can jump to another question that's related. Anisa, there's a question about how much money individual schools are getting from COVID funds and how they find out how much their schools get. I don't know if you could speak to that at all.
Yeah, it's allocated by Title I formula. So I can't tell you exactly how much you're getting, but that's what it's connected to. Your state Department of Education should have an information site about the American Rescue Plan funds. At this point, they should have one up because they just got their guidance from the U.S. Department of Ed about what their own plans are going to need to look like that go to the Department of Ed for how they're using these funds. They got that instruction like last week, so they should have or be getting information up for school districts very soon about what they'll be looking for from school districts. But like I said, it's allocated by formula, so it's not a competitive grant program, but you would have to check with your state Department of Ed about what that allocation looks like by that formula for your school district.
If you want just a simple case study, I mean, we may not be an example of what would happen across the whole country, but we have about 210 school facilities, 27 million square feet, and 180,000 students. And we are going to be getting about $90 million in the ESSER 2 grant, 25.1 of which we're going to use for permanent HVAC upgrade improvements. So those numbers, again, they may not be representative of anything other than our school division, but if that gives you some sense of just order of magnitude, what you can imagine, it would be close to that probably.
And what's your percentage free and reduced lunch? Because it would be connected.
I think we're in the, you know what? I'm not going to even try. I'm sorry.
Okay. Sorry to put you on the spot.
I hate to misquote. I do think we have a fair amount of free and reduced lunch. I mean, we are a very healthy county when you look at the average per capita annual household income, but we also have a lot of people who are really struggling. And I think we're probably more than a third of our students are free and reduced lunch students.
Great. I think I'm going to try to squeeze in one more question for the group before we wrap up. There's one that came in. Given how many of the AQ upgrades have caused higher energy use, are there efforts or tools to support maximizing passive or low energy strategies or mixed mode? I don't know if folks want to speak to that.
Well, I'll say that the things that we're doing where we're getting rid of through the wall unit ventilators and we're putting in, energy recovery ventilation or direct, something that you can do in this particular case is you can get rid of a lot of problems that you've had. You may not even have known that you had them if you haven't really looked at your mechanical systems. And we're pretty knowledgeable about them because we do benchmark everything and we certify every building we can through ENERGY STAR. So the ASHRAE 55, which is thermal conditions, and the ASHRAE 62, which is ventilation requirements, we've looked at those in our schools a lot. And we know where our problems are. We have data loggers that we can show the temperature and the relative humidity over time for specific rooms and specific schools, just to get rid of the dollars that we spend every year doing mold remediation and eliminating moisture and renting dehumidifiers. I believe that when you look at this holistically, dealing with the ventilation issues and actually addressing them in a way that provides good indoor air quality, you'd be hard pressed not to save money, frankly. I hate that. I know that sounds really counterintuitive, and it probably is like breaking some people's minds. But in our school division, with our experience, I can promise you, we will save money and we will make better indoor air quality. And we're just all super, super thankful that this is being addressed by the federal government and that the need is being met. It's the only problem that we're going to have is that we and everyone else like us is all going to want to use the same pool of contractors, equipment, all at the same time. And it's going to be a busy, busy time for those people.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would double down on what John just said. The ASHRAE epidemic task force that we worked with on the IAQ survey was just adamant that we needed to be capturing data on how many school districts are actually doing retro commissioning on their buildings and their systems, because that was the number one thing that they were all seeing among their clients. That was the need, the making sure the systems are working as designed and to their maximum ability is going to save you money, and it will also improve air quality. And so that's like the top of the list. If folks on the phone haven't done that yet, and I assume a lot of people that are here might have already done that, but it's important.
No, thanks for that point, Anisa, and John as well. I think it's a great point to end on as we're nearing the end of our time together. So we can go ahead and jump to the list of resources that we have compiled here. This is clearly not all of the resources listed today, so please watch out for those slides to snag these resources and also the ones listed in the other slides and the ones in the chat. Last but not least, and probably most importantly, you can stay connected to us through our State and Local Solutions Center or subscribe to our monthly newsletter to keep up with the latest. If you have any questions about the resources discussed today, feel free to reach out at stateandlocal@ee.due.gov. We have a quick video to showcase our Better Building Solutions Center that has over 3,000 solutions to help you find proven and cost-effective strategies. We can go ahead and check out this video to learn more. All right, and I'll make a quick plug for our summer webinar series beginning in June. To register for any of these amazing sessions, you can go to the Solution Center and click on Events and Webinars. We'd also like to remind you to follow along, since this is just the start of a packed week. You can follow along on Twitter using the hashtag BB Summit 2021 or follow the handles listed here. And with that, I'd like to thank our panelists so much for taking the time to be with us today. We've launched a short feedback survey in Slido and ask that you please take a couple minutes to give us feedback on this session. Your answers will be totally invisible to other attendees. You can go ahead and hit the next slide. And here you can find everyone's contact information. And if you'd like to learn more about these resources, please check out the Solution Center or contact any of us directly. Thank you so much, and hope you have a great rest of the week.
Thank you, Brooke.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Bye.